Hi, thank you so much for tuning in to P2P Relates, where we talk about all things relationships. I'm Pat Renfro, and as you can see, I have this big hunk of beauty sitting to the right of me. This is my nephew, Damon Bomar. Damon, thank you so much for agreeing to do this interview today.
Yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome.
So we're going to jump right to it. I would introduce Damon Bomar as the COO of That Brown Girl Cooks / Communion Restaurant. Now, he can correct me, but Damon, in just 30 years, you have accomplished a lot. And I want to hear your story because on this channel, we talk about all things relationships. And sometimes we don't put the dots together, but really, when you talk about relationships, it's not just about romance and marriage and all that. In fact, this generation is just, I'm not convinced that they're that sold on all of that jazz anyway. But if we want to have a successful life, we've got to be able to manage who we are and develop that and become the best we can be. And then we've got friendships, we've got dating, then eventually maybe marriage and business relationships. Those are all the things we cover on this channel. And actually in our lives, we're dealing with that all the time. So today I want to hear from Damon. I want to know his story. I want to know what it took to be where you are already at just 30. So tell your story, please.
Yeah, what's going on? My name is Damon Bomar, a co-owner and director of operations at That Brown Girl Cooks. Yeah, and it all started with my mother, Kristi Brown, her sister. She started That Brown Girl Catering in about 1989 and grew the catering company to doing a lot of corporate catering, nonprofit catering, and city catering, box lunches and things like that. She shut the business down in 2009, just due to the recession and due to other factors, lack of access to capital, and she was just doing everything herself. And then opened the company back up in 2012 under That Brown Girl Cooks, and she started just doing the black eyed pea hummus, which was a featured product in the catering company. She took the black eyed pea hummus, went into farmers markets, was selling it by the package, 8-ounce container, and then went on to get into a couple of the local markets here in Seattle, named Madison Market, aka Central Co-op, or the Red Apple chain. So then in 2015, I moved back. She was making a move to a copacker, which is, for those who don't know what a copacker is, they take your product and your recipe and they create your product and package it for you so that you can sell it at a higher volume than what you would be capable of as an individual producer. And in that move to the co-packer, things went a little wrong. And at that point, she was just like, she had kind of galvanized as much energy as she could. And with that move and that not working out, she was ready to kind of put it down again. And so at that point, that was when, I'd already flirted with the idea of coming back to help out. But at that point, I knew it was time because I didn't want to see the business go down again. And because I knew that I had a dream for the business. During that time, I went to Howard University. I studied business, hospitality management focus, and then I worked in the industry out in Washington, D.C. as well, working bartender, busser, server, things like that, and was just kind of just getting my chops in the industry out there, specifically like bartending and just learning about restaurants in general. So then, I kind of started working with her prior to moving back, was looking at her business plan and kind of writing out the story and things like that. She had already had an introductory business plan, but I was kind of bolstering it up, kind of moving it into the next phase. And I moved back March 1st of 2015 to kind of hit the ground and start running, helping the company, with the anticipation of helping it grow. At that point, we were only doing the hummus. And so we kind of just got started right away. And I was doing everything from making the hummus to fulfilling the invoices to kind of just doing everything. We were doing everything together. We were just kind of moving. And so we were hustling, doing the hummus. She took herself out of the farmers markets at that time just because it was too much for one person to do. I mean, she had already let go of her employees because she was anticipating moving into that co-packer. So, when I came back, kind of just all hands on deck, and we were only fulfilling orders for Central Co-op at the time. And so we kept doing that, and kind of piece by piece, we kind of get more accounts. A lot of CSAs came along, like full Full Circle is a CSA here in Washington, in Seattle.
What's a CSA?
A CSA is a community source agriculture. They do deliver boxes to homes of produce and other like products and things like that. And then there was another company called Farmigo that picked us up, and we were kind of distributing through there. And all the while, the idea is that we wanted to go and retail in another natural food market here, which is PCC. And then more national food chains like Whole Foods. We wanted to stick with natural food markets because we have a specialty product, which is the black eyed pea hummus. People, in that category shop at some very specific places. So we didn't see value at first in moving into QFC or Safeway. There's different approaches to those type of markets. I mean, they're managed differently than the natural food markets. And so we were kind of just doing it. We were actually like on social media, out in front of the PCC offices, like, let us in. You know what I'm saying? It was really fun. And so we finally got in. We signed up with a distributor, and we got into the PCC markets and got into Whole Foods, got into Marlene's markets, and we got up to 25 to 27 stores out here in Seattle. And it was a wonderful process. We did it together, and it was fun. I had a good time learning about the industry, learning about retail and things like that. And so, but the only thing is, wholesale doesn't make money unless you're doing a lot of volume. And so, wholesale, unless you're upwards in the 50 or the 100 stores, that's when it starts really making money. And so in 2017, we decided to get back into catering. People had been asking throughout the time. People had been asking for her to do catering since she closed. And so we still had the market there for us to kind of engage in that operation. So we started catering. And so the good thing about catering is they pay deposits. And so you build a business from nothing because people are paying deposits, and then you're producing the item or producing the value. So that's the beautiful thing about catering. We needed more money to kind of live and things like that, and kind of grow the business in a different way. And honestly, there was a need for it. People wanted her to cater, and they were asking for it, and we were just getting so many inquiries. It was just hard to turn down. So we started doing like catering centered around the hummus first, where we just do hummus and accoutrements and things like that. And then we kind of started to get more and more kind of larger scale events. And so from there, we started catering. And, that's when kind of we started growing and kind of just getting our name out there again. One thing about my mom, Chef Kristi, is that she's a really good networker, and she creates lasting relationships. And people remember her, and they will always support her because they remember her personality. She follows up. She cares about people. She asks the kind of in-depth questions and things like that. And she's fun and funny and, very lively to be around. So that just really provides an asset for the company and for the name and for her brand. And so we kept going and doing that. So we were kind of just building off of her network. We did that and grew the catering within the first year to about, I think it was about around $250,000 in the first year, which matched where she had made before she stepped out. And again, like when you're thinking about it, like, in the grand scheme of things, $250,000 to a big business is like, oh yeah, that's a chump change. But for us, coming from zero with no money, I think we hadn't even gotten our loan yet, but from $0 to just kind of willfully pursuing and pushing this forward. You know what I'm saying? That was a big deal.
And that was within what period of time?
That was within a year. I was year 2 now of me being back.
Right.
And of this kind of revamped version of That Brown Girl Cooks. Yeah, $250,000. When we were moving, we had started employing more folks. We were able to secure a loan for operational capital and to kind of grow business that way. And so we catered a lot. We were still doing the catering and the wholesale for the first year. No, 2017, we were just starting to cater because we had started catering towards the end of 2017. Okay. And then 2018 was when we did the $250,000. and we were kind of moving in that direction, still doing the catering.
That's okay.
Basically, year by year, we were doubling and doubling our income and our revenue. We were on pace with the 2020 to do 750, but you know, the pandemic shut that down.
Well, it did and it didn't.
Well, yeah,
that's the main thing. I mean, the whole lot of people got shut down to the point where they were gone, and that is so sad and so unfortunate. And these people kept going. Yeah. Now my nephew is being pretty humble too, and I mean he should be, because my sister built this business over a 20+ year period of time, and then he jumped in. But I'm telling you what, these figures he's trying to think of, they doubled when he got here. Yeah, they doubled. And so I'd like you to talk a little bit about what you think your contribution was to helping that double happen.
Oh yeah. Well, I definitely provided a lot of organization to the business and kind of foresight and vision. Definitely when it comes to strategy in terms of how to approach the market, how to kind of organize our systems in order to kind of get more streamlined to give us more bandwidth for revenue. That's definitely how I come into the play. And kind of like, creating the systems, creating the plan, the benchmarks, the goals, and kind of organizing it so that we can take step by step how to accept the opportunities that we're given. And so I think that's the one thing that I realize is that there's a multitude of opportunity in this world, but you have to have the bandwidth to accept it and assume that opportunity. And so I think that that's one thing, that I was able to provide to the company, whereas my mom is a chef. She cooks. And so that is the basis of the foundation of the company. And that's where I come in to kind of bring the infrastructure. It's like she's the engine and I built the car around it, you know what I'm saying? And the wheels and things like that. And so that's how kind of we got to it. So like, for example, specifically, I built the production sheet for the hummus. So when we're getting orders and job descriptions, something that you help me out with, but it's catering platforms, onboarding catering platforms so that we can streamline our event planning. Rules and regulations, I wrote out the hummus manual, the demo manual, and the goals and the vision for like specifically how we're going to get to where we're going to get to.
I asked him about a year ago to tell me what was the vision for That Brown Girl Cooks, and he blew my mind. I had to stop him because I ran out of brain power to retain it all. But that's a big piece of business success is the vision. And then the other piece is being able to implement and carry out, because visionaries sometimes will just flop when it comes to actually making it happen. So that's a real gift and talent that he brings to the organization. Damon, thank you so much for sharing all that. Okay, so you've done mega partnership with Kristi and That Brown Girl Cooks. Not to mention now the restaurant, which if we went into that, we would be another 10, 15 minutes. So we're not going to do that. But do check out Communion, because that restaurant is on the move and they're getting lots of publicity. Today's Show, Evening Magazine, a plethora of interviews because of the amount of success they've had despite the pandemic. So they understand, and I love their name Communion, because it was from the fact that they understand how important it is to maintain community, to involve and engage and care for and love the community, and they have done that. And one of my favorite pieces of what they did was the community kitchen. They had so much community support from businesses that had supported their catering and invested in their business, and they gave money, they gave food, they did all kinds of things, and they did top of the line food service for the community. Whosoever needed to come could come and get food. And Kristi even shared with me a few times that for free. And the money was there to help the staff, because if you lose your staff during the pandemic, you got to get trained people all over again, which automatically means you lose money, you lose business. So they were just really fortunate because of how they engaged in relationships to be able to have people that supported their vision and saw where they were headed and just kept doing and giving. And they did all the stuff they needed to do business-wise to keep the funds coming so they could keep everything going. And it really touched my heart when Kristi said that they were looking forward to feeding the homeless and that type of thing, but they fed whosoever will. And there were people that came up and said, I haven't eaten in a couple of days. So I just love their whole thing, and then they're on the street called Union, so Communion was just a perfect name. But we're going to shift now from this hard work business side of life, and I want to find out, what is it like to be 30 years old, the son of a chef, partnered with her to build and grow and change the business, and now you still got to manage relationships. You got to build a relationship with yourself and grow. You've also got to maintain friendships. If you choose to date, you've got to manage that. And then the business and the relationships that are therein in those relationships. How do you manage all that day after day and still have time for self-care and boundaries? Any of that. What does that look like for a 30-year-old? All right. Well, we're going to stop at this point because it's been quite a bit of time and I don't want to keep you any longer. If you want to hear the conclusion of the conversation I had with Damon Bomar, you'll have to tune in next Friday, where we'll talk a lot more about relationships, what it's like as a 30-year-old in business to have time for the other balanced side of your life. So hope you'll check it out. Thank you so much for tuning in to P2P Relates, where we talk about all things relationships. Hit that subscribe button, tap the bell, and you'll get notified when I upload, which is every Friday. And I always ask for that like. That helps, and your comments are welcomed. You have a wonderful week, and we will talk to you next week. Bye.